Hi, this is Mrs. Pearlstein again, and so now we're going to look at some examples of how to find all 6 of the trig ratios. So I'm giving you a triangle, and the angle theta is down here in the bottom right hand corner, and the hypotenuse is equal to the square root of 5. So we're going to write HYP here just to remind us. And if we go directly across from the angle that we're looking at, we see that we have a side that has a length of 1. We're going to call that the opposite side. And the side that is next to the angle that isn't the hypotenuse, that's called the adjacent side. Okay, so now we're going to go to the definitions of sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent. And we see that the sine of an angle is equal to the length of the side opposite divided by the hypotenuse. So this angle theta here, notice this matches this. Opposite is the side directly across. It has a length of 1, and the hypotenuse has a length of the square root of 5. Now, as a side note, you know that you're never allowed to leave the square root of 5 in the denominator or anything that has a square root. So we will have to rationalize that number, and we do that by multiplying the numerator and the denominator by the square root of 5. Multiplying across, we get 1 times the square root of 5, which is the square root of 5, and the square root of 5 times the square root of 5, which is just going to be equal to 5. So this is the same as the square root of 5 over 5. The next trig function we want to find, or the trig ratio we want to find, is the cosine. And by looking at the definition, you see that it's the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. So adjacent to this angle theta, we see that the length of that side is 2, and the hypotenuse is the square root of 5. Again, we would have to rationalize this denominator, and we would end up with 2 root 5 over 5. Okay, I'm going to switch from marker to pen because that marker is way too big. But moving on to the tangent function, we see tangent is opposite over adjacent. So the side that's opposite the angle is 1, and the adjacent side is 2. So the tangent of theta is just 1/2. Next is the cosecant. The cosecant is the hypotenuse over the opposite side. So it's the square root of 5 over 1. Notice that this number and this number are just reciprocals of each other because the sine and the cosecant are reciprocal functions. The 5th trig function is the secant function. It's equal to the hypotenuse over adjacent. The hypotenuse has a length of the square root of 5, and the adjacent side is 2. And once again, if you look at the cosine and the secant, you will see that those two numbers are reciprocals of each other. Finally, the last is tangent. The last is cotangent, but notice the tangent is equal to 1 over 2. So we could go through this and do adjacent over opposite, so it would be 2 over 1 by looking at the diagram. Or we can also remember the fact that the cotangent and the tangent are just reciprocals, and since the tangent is 1 over 2, then the cotangent is going to be 2 over 1. So either way you do that, you're going to end up with the same answer. So that's how we find all 6 of the trig ratios when we are given all 3 sides of a right triangle.